All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. You know we love to dig into all sorts of motivational content and figure out how to apply these big ideas to our own lives.
That's right. And this week we're tackling fitness, or more specifically, how to create a workout routine that you can actually stick with.
We found this really cool fitness podcast episode that had some pretty insightful stuff. I mean, honestly, how many times have you heard that whole go hard or go home thing?
Oh, yeah, like every other fitness ad out there, right?
Exactly. But this podcast took a completely different approach, which I loved. They talked about the importance of sustainability using this super clever marathon analogy.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
So think about it. You've got the sprinter who takes off full speed ahead at the starting line, and then you've got the runner who strategically paces themselves. Who do you think is going to be in better shape when they hit that finish line?
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. It's not just about finishing, is it? It's about how you get there. The sprinter's probably going to be totally wiped out, barely able to crawl across the finish line. But the one who paced themselves, they'll have energy left in the tank.
Exactly. And that's what sustainable fitness is all about, right? It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. We're talking about building a routine that you can stick with for the long haul, not just for a few weeks or even months.
Yeah, you don't want to burn yourself out right away. I mean, how many of us have started a super intense workout program only to quit after a week or two because it's just too much?
Ugh. Too many times to count.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting? This podcast even tied this whole idea of sustainability to the power of building habits. They actually quoted Aristotle.
Wait, really? Aristotle talked about fitness habits?
Well, not exactly fitness habits specifically, but the quote was, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit." Pretty powerful stuff.
Wow, yeah. And it makes total sense in this context.
Because when you think about it, habits are what keep us going even when our motivation dips, which, let's be real, happens to all of us.
Oh, absolutely. Some days I'm all pumped to work out, and then other days I'm like, can I just skip it today and order takeout instead?
I feel that. But the thing is, if you have a solid habit in place, you're much more likely to push through those blah days and get your workout done.
Yeah, it almost becomes automatic. You just do it without even thinking about it, like brushing your teeth.
Exactly. So the question then becomes, how do we actually build these superpowered habits? Well, this podcast had some surprisingly simple tips. And get this, they actually said to start small. Like really small, just 15 minutes a day.
Wait, just 15 minutes? That seems almost too easy.
Right, but that's the whole point. They emphasize that even just a short walk, some yoga, a few push-ups, anything to get you moving can make a huge difference.
I guess it's more about building that consistency than going all out right away.
Yeah, it's about proving to yourself that you can stick with something, even if it's just a tiny commitment. Baby steps.
It's like building that foundation you were talking about earlier.
Exactly. And you know what else? The podcast really hammered home the importance of finding something you actually enjoy doing. So ditch those cookie-cutter workout plans and figure out what gets you excited to move your body.
You mean like, if I'd rather dance around my living room to 80s music than lift weights at the gym, that's totally okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's your routine, so make it something you look forward to.
Yeah, because who wants to dread their workouts, right? It's all about shifting that mindset from I have to I want to.
Yes. And you know what else can help make your workouts more enjoyable? They talked about creating rituals around them.
Oh, like what kind of rituals?
Well, it could be something as simple as always working out to a specific playlist, lighting a scented candle, or having a designated time of day when you hit the gym or the park or wherever you like to sweat.
I can see how that would help. It's kind of like signaling to your brain, okay, it's workout time.
Right. And those rituals also help solidify your habits, making it more likely that you'll stick with your routine long term.
So it's not just about the physical aspect, but also the mental game, huh?
Exactly. And speaking of mindset, the podcast had this really interesting point about the language we use around fitness. They pointed out that we often hear these super intense phrases like crush your goals or push yourself to the limit.
Yeah, like you have to be in pain to see results.
Right. But this podcast had a completely different take. They focused on phrases like showing up consistently and celebrating small wins. It's a much gentler, more sustainable approach.
I like that. It takes the pressure off, doesn't it?
Totally. And finally, and this is so important, they talked about giving yourself grace. You know, we all miss workouts sometimes. Life gets in the way things happen. It's not about being perfect. It's about getting back on track when you slip up.
Yeah, beating yourself up over a missed workout is just going to discourage you from getting back to it.
Exactly. And you know what? That's something they emphasized in the podcast, too. They said it's not about never falling off track. It's about having a plan for getting back on.
So true. Everyone slips up sometimes. It's what you do afterward that matters.
Okay, so are you ready for the challenge? Because this podcast ended with a really cool one. They challenged listeners to pick one sustainable habit they could commit to for just 7 days.
Ooh, a challenge. I'm in.
Awesome. And remember, it doesn't have to be anything huge. It could be as simple as taking a 15-minute walk each evening, doing 10 push-ups before bed, or even just stretching for 5 minutes every morning.
So many options.
I know. So what one thing will you commit to for the next 7 days?
Okay, I'm going to go for a 20-minute walk every day after lunch. It helps me clear my head and get some fresh air. What about you?
I'm going to try those 10 push-ups before bed. I've been meaning to work on my upper body strength.
Perfect. And hey, if we miss a day, we'll just get right back on track.
Okay, absolutely. No guilt, just consistency and grace. And remember, everyone, greatness isn't built overnight. It's about those small, consistent efforts day after day, week after week.
That's it. Pace yourself, celebrate those little wins, and enjoy the journey. Who knows? Maybe we'll even make it to the finish line with some energy left in the tank.
I love that. And, that leaves me thinking, if we can apply this principle of sustainability to our workouts, how else can we bring this mindset into other areas of our lives, our relationships, our work, even our hobbies?
That's a great question to ponder. How can we find that sweet spot between effort and ease, consistency and grace in everything we do?
Something to think about, listeners. Until next time.
See ya.